The Trump administration is totally different. There's not a single person there you can't get on the phone and talk to.
Should being a mega donor, I mean, I guess I get your point of view, but couldn't it also just be like, no, we're not going to be biased just because a person donated money?
Former Democratic Party mega donor and billionaire Chamath Palihapitiya is bragging about how fantastic the Trump administration is because they answer the calls of billionaires. So I'm going to get to that clip and a little more, because this Chamath Palihapitiya, this billionaire, is a great example of how these people operate. Because I heard this name, I saw the face, and I thought, haven't I done a video on this guy before? And in fact, yes, I did. Back in 2020, during the beginning of the pandemic, I did this video, Billionaire Stuns CNBC host, quote, "Let them get wiped out," where he's talking about let these hedge funds get wiped out if, you know, they go bankrupt or whatever.
Why does anybody deserve, using your word, to get wiped out from a crisis created like this? How does anybody deserve to get wiped out?
Well, but just be clear, like, who are we talking about? We're talking about a hedge fund that serves a bunch of billionaire family offices? Who cares? Let them get wiped out. Who cares? They don't get the summer in the Hamptons? Who cares?
Basically, a message coming from a billionaire that you don't normally hear, which is why the video did so well. But since Trump has come in, there has been a noticeable shift in how Palihapitiya carries himself, where if you check his Twitter account, check his various appearances, he is praising the Trump administration quite a bit. And before these tariffs were reversed, he put this message out.
I think it's pretty clear. One, Trump has had a 40-year view on tariffs. They're going to go through with this and they're going to see it through. I don't think you're going to see this grand capitulation. Two,
I don't think you're going to see this grand capitulation. He also went on to say, this is your daily reminder that we are only a few days into tariffs. There is an enormous opportunity here to write Bretton Woods 2.0, the Mar-a-Lago Accords. Time favors Trump. The longer he takes, the more he will get. Well, what was it? 3 days later, Trump reverses course on global tariffs, announces a 90-day pause. Now, his predictions may be off, but he does have some personal experience with the Trump administration and comparing them to how Obama operated. So this is a recent appearance that Palihapitiya made on Andrew Schultz podcast. And there's actually a really good question from one of the hosts later on. I'll get to that as well. But here's what he said.
this is one thing I'll tell you about the Trump administration, which is totally different. Okay, I was a lifelong Democrat. Okay, I was a mega donor to the Democrats. You know, like dinner with Obama level donor. Okay, I couldn't get a fucking phone call returned from the White House to save my life. The only thing that happened to me was I made an off-color comment about like something in China, and I had the Biden administration like basically say something, like essentially put out a press release, basically saying I was like, you know, mean. That's all I got for millions of dollars.
That's all I got for millions of dollars. All right, I'm going to get to the bulk of the clip, but I had to pause it here because there's a point that I have to make, because he makes this comment about how he made an off-color comment about, quote, something in China. And that's when the Biden administration had to release a press release about it. And that's all he got for all of his money. We'll get to all that point later. But he knows what he said, but he doesn't want to be specific about what he said on a more of a right-leaning podcast, because it is actually the right wing that came after him and attacked him at the time for the comments that he made concerning China, which was at the fact that he dismissed the Uyghur abuses by the Chinese government. So this was like a major headline in right-wing circles for a week at least. Fox News here, six-figure Biden donor claims nobody cares about ongoing Uyghur genocide. Quote, the rest of us don't care. Another Fox News headline, days later, White House, DNC silent about donations from Dem donor who said nobody cares about Uyghur genocide. This is why the administration, look, I was looking for the response. I didn't find it. I'm sure they responded at some point. But this is why they felt the need to respond to this, is because the right wing was attacking him over it. So that's why there is a response. And National Review, another right-wing outlet here. Investors' Uyghur comments are even worse than you've heard. Now, this is my favorite because you go down and he says here, so just to be clear about his initial comments, I'm telling you a very hard, ugly truth, okay, of all the things that I care about. Yes, it is below my line. Okay, of all the things that I care about, it is below my line. But ultimately, the point he was trying to make, which I think he made it poorly, there's a better way to make this point. But he said, if you're asking me, do I care about a segment of a class of people in another country? Not until we can take care of ourselves will I prioritize them over us. I understand what he's trying to say here. I think it's a bad way of saying it. But my favorite is the National Review's commentary on this. Because remember, this is the right-wing National Review saying, notice this dodge, the notion that it is a binary choice, that caring about human rights abuses abroad means we cannot care about human rights at home. How do you think the National Review has reported on Palestinians over the past couple of years? I'll give you one recent example. This is their headline. Palestinians have dehumanized themselves. Ah, yes, the National Review cares so much about human rights abuses abroad. Laughable. But that's to show you, like, these sorts of turns people like this make. You know, when it benefited Palihapitiya to be a Democrat mouthpiece, or you could argue even more of a left wing in the sense that he was criticizing hedge funds, but he's still a billionaire, let's be clear. But then now make the move to defending the Trump administration on and on. Like it's a wild shift, but they'll do what they can to work in this spaces that they think will benefit them. So he's now made the shift to the right. So he's going to be, not specific about what he said about China. But this goes on to the rest of the clip here.
The Trump administration is totally different. There's not a single person there you can't get on the phone and talk to. I'll give you an example of this. A friend of mine's company was really impacted with these tariffs in a bad way, okay? This is like a really amazing, legitimate American business, 150-year-old business, family-owned, all this stuff. And I was able to call the deputy chief of staff and I said, hey, can you talk to the CEO and just so hear on the ground? He's like instantly putting me on the phone. My wife runs a pharmaceutical business. And, we wanted to make sure that the administration understood like all the implications for rare diseases and orphan drugs. What happens if these tariffs like cripple the R&D budgets? Because there's 30 million Americans with rare diseases. Rare diseases means it's not like diabetes or cancer. Yeah. It's like 200,000 people or less. But there's 30 million of these Americans. 2/3 are kids. And the only companies that work on such small markets are these small biotech companies. And the tariffs create a lot of uncertainty. We were able to talk to all of them.
All right, there's one more clip with that great question, and we'll see his response in a second here. But this tells you a lot. Because he says here, quote, there's not a single person there that you can't get on the phone and talk to. He forgot to add at the end of that sentence, as a billionaire. Because let's say there is a researcher into one of these rare diseases that doesn't work for one of his friend's companies, or that doesn't run the company. Are they going to be able to get on the phone with the administration and talk to them? It's important to note, he brings in the pharmaceutical company as sort of the way to defend what the administration does in terms of just answering calls from billionaires. But public money funds the majority of research into rare diseases and medicine for the obvious fact that it's not all that lucrative to research into rare diseases. So what ends up happening is that research that is publicly funded, that, by the way, Trump administration is cutting, that is funded, is then taken by these sorts of companies, like his wife's company, I assume, and they use that research to then sell it back to the public in the form of medicine, a pill. So this is like, I'm just saying this all to say that this is not a great defense of what the administration is doing. Because at the end of the day, they're only taking calls from people that run companies. That is not the same as taking calls from experts in whatever field that should have a conversation with the administration on whatever topic. So I also got, I'm a little surprised that he wasn't able to get Obama on the phone or someone in the administration on the phone, because Obama did the bank bailouts. It's not as if, Obama ran an administration that was, socialist in any way. So their administration, very capitalist, did a healthcare plan in the Affordable Care Act that, again, centered private entities, private health insurance, which is insane. But so, yeah, I'm a little surprised that he was not able to talk to anybody there while they were in power. That said, this is not a selling feature of the Trump administration. Trump, who and the people around him trying to pretend that this is an administration that cares about the average person, and it's going to look out for them and be their protector, yet will jump at the opportunity to take a phone call from a billionaire. Sort of at odds with that whole framing around what Trump claims he is. But I want to get to this question here, which is, I'm so glad this was asked, because this is a great question. And check out the terrible response from Palihapitiya.
You can pick up the phone and talk to these people. I've never had that experience, guys. I mean, look, I was like a senior person at Facebook, could never get a meeting. I only met Obama once when he came to the thing. Then when I was running an investment fund, successful, I had dinner with Obama, but it was, under the purposes of, should I donate to the foundation? I've donated millions of dollars to Democrats. I've never been to the Oval. Okay? But the minute that it's like here, it's like, hey, come to the White House, explain these issues now. You get on a plane, you get over there, and they're like, explain it. And then they'll debate it. That's like, it's totally different.
Sorry, devil's advocate, should being a mega donor, I mean, I guess I get your point of view, but couldn't it also just be like, no, we're not going to be biased just because a person donated money. We're not going to just answer the phone whenever he calls.
You think I was like, stupid 5 years ago and all of a sudden tried to start to build national champions like now?
Yeah.
Dude, man, I've been in the grind for fucking 25 years here, paying my taxes. I fucking paid, more than most people.
Yeah. So irrespective of the donation,
I've been trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to favor myself. It's like, even just to explain, like, here's what's happening on the ground. Do you want to know?
Completely dodges the question, which is a great question. Isn't it kind of odd? Isn't it a bit biased that they will take a call only if you're a billionaire? The question isn't about, do you deserve to be a billionaire? Did you earn your right to have the money you have? That wasn't the question. The question was, the average person can't get that call. A medical researcher can't get that call. But a billionaire can get that call. Isn't that a little unfair? But no, the way this billionaire and the vast majority of people in this sort of status, the way they operate is they will move with the times. I mean, you saw the inauguration, the amount of billionaires standing behind Donald Trump. They know what they're doing. So not at all surprising to see that this is the reality with the administration, that they will take a call from, any billionaire immediately. But it's good to hear the honesty, I suppose, because you don't often hear billionaires speak this openly about their interactions with various administrations.